Bonjour, mes amis. We're going to take a trip to the island of Sodom, but before we do, I'd just like to thank all my Twitter friends for their good wishes following my cancer diagnosis. Just to keep you updated, they've stopped chemotherapy because that was not doing me any good at all, making me very ill. And now I'm waiting for surgery, which is penciled in for the 21st of March. We'll keep you informed on that. This one's called Lee. Nigel, the Brexit engine, was having a clank. This was not unusual. Nigel was, after all, a monumental clanker. The other engines were having a well-earned rest. Thomas had spent the day taking tourists and sightseers to the top of the mountain. Percy had been doing some heavy-duty shunting with some really troublesome trucks. James had been up to the big town taking office workers to their jobs, and Edward had been pulling the express. Just then, with a whoosh of steam that was clearly intended to get him noticed, Lee pulled into the yard. Now, as we all know, engines are defined by type, or as it's properly known, by class. Thomas, for example, was a Class E2, Edward a K2 mixed traffic tender engine, and James, the red engine, was a Class 28. Lee, it was universally agreed, had no class whatsoever. Lee was, it must be said, a belligerent little engine with a tendency to lecture the troublesome trucks on the proper distribution of coal. Lee believed that the trucks were beneath his dignity. The trucks, on the other hand, believed that Lee had no dignity to be beneath. On the whole, most of the other engines sided with the trucks. Nigel was the exception. Nigel quite liked Lee, and he said so. "I quite like Lee," he said. "He's my kind of engine." This was true. Nigel and Lee were two of a kind. "A pair of clankers," said Percy cheekily. They both had an obsession with sick eagles. "Illegals," said Edward. "They're not sick, they're ill. Illegals. For God's sake, you've been writing this stuff for years, and you still can't get it right." I apologised. "Illegals," I said. They both had an obsession with illegals, and they both had ideas on how to deal with the problem. Nigel thought they should be rounded up and sent back to wherever it was they came from, or failing that, be packed off to somewhere called Rwanda. Where is Rwanda?" asked Thomas. "No one knows," said James darkly. "No one knows. The land that time forgot," said Percy. Lee's solution was a little more radical. He believed they should be drowned at sea and their bodies strung up along the beach as a warning to others. "He's a nasty piece of work," said Henry. "He's a nasty piece of work."